Well, we're joined now by Leonie Sheedy from Clan, a group that represents people who have been in care, either in state care or in church care. And I understand, Leonie, that you've got some very real concerns about some of the records that are being kept back from people.
I certainly am. I come to Port Lincoln Prison every year in December for an expo day they have, and it's really wonderful that the prison has this. And every year I get requests from men who have been in orphanages, children's homes or foster care to get their state ward file. And last December we got 6 requests, 2 from other states. Those men have already got their files. The other 4 prisoners are South Australian wards, and they are still waiting for their file to be delivered. We applied for their records on the 26th of January this year, and we keep getting different excuses why those records will not be released to Clan to deliver them to the men.
The men simply want to know what happened to them when they were children, and by reading the records they can find out.
Well, not necessarily. You can find out a bit about what happened to you and why you were taken away from your parents and put into care, but it often doesn't provide evidence that you were abused sexually, physically or emotionally in those files. And these men require those files in order to go forward and tell their story to the Royal Commission. And the South Australian government keeps telling me that it's because of the 1993 Child Protection Act that the records cannot be released to them, because it states in that Act 58.1 that you cannot release records about abuse about a child, and there's a $10,000 penalty if you do that.
Yes, however, but wouldn't that be giving that information to a third party, not to the party involved, surely?
Well, you would think so, and they're not children anymore, they're grown men, and, everyone has a right to know their information. The pre-1993 people are eligible to get their files in South Australia, but anyone post-care, because it's at the Solicitor General's at the present time, waiting for a decision to be made. And it's really discrimination that these people are being denied their records and having to wait. They can't ring the Families SA and request their files like we can on the outside. And, it must be terrible having to wait this length of time. And I'm so angry that I've had to go back to the prison today empty-handed, and I have to explain to those men, I'm sorry, you have to wait longer for your file.
When you say they'll have to wait longer, do you think that when this is actually put before a senior lawmaker that they will be able to see the illogicality of not giving someone their own records about their own history?
Well, it hasn't shifted in the last 3 weeks to 4 weeks, Ian. I've been ringing the Minister, Susan Close, and she could sign that request to get those files today. There is a get-out-of-jail clause in the Child Protection Act of 1993. It states that an employee of the department, with permission, can release this information and they won't be fined the $10,000. I can't remember the exact wording.
Okay, so these prisoners would like to see these records and they believe that it's very important for them. What's the next step then? You just keep asking the Minister, do you? Where is it at?
I think the South Australian government needs to commit financial resources and people in the dysfunctional Families SA and get this up to speed. New South Wales used to be the worst state to wait for files. People were waiting over 12 months for their files, but they've actually put more resources into the access to records for care leavers, but South Australia have not. And, the Royal Commission the Federal Royal Commission has been going for 2 years. They knew there'd be an increase in files, requests for files, and they've failed to implement, more resources or staff to that unit. And how much longer do these men have to wait?
I'm talking to Leonie Sheedy this morning from Clan, an organisation that helps people talk about their abuse, the history of abuse. And Leonie, I'm still trying to get this clear. Is the Minister's office saying that they are understaffed and under-resourced, or are they saying that they cannot give the files to the relevant people?
Both. They're saying because it's at the Solicitor General's and, they're waiting for a response if they can release the files, and then the department from Families SA head is stating, to me on the phone at least, that there's a lack of resources, as well.
These prisoners, do they want to appear before the Royal Commission and tell their stories?
2 of them, I'm certain, told me that they were abused while they were in care in South Australia, and they do wish to go to the Royal Commission with their horrific abuse stories.
Can they do that anyway without the files?
You can, but why shouldn't they have those files? So that they can have any evidence that is contained in those files. And it takes a lot of courage to go and get your files because of the most horrendous stuff that's written about you and your family. There's things like high-grade mental defect written on those files, mentally slow but not retarded. This is the worst family I've ever met while I've worked in the department. It takes courage to apply for those records, Ian. They're not the easiest things to read. I've known people who've gotten rotten drunk when they've got their file. They've burnt them. Some people can't bear to read them. They sit them in drawers. I know one woman who hasn't read it for 7 years. It takes courage. What other member of society has to go to a government department to learn about their family and learn about their family history? Only people like us who are state wards and home children care leavers. And we're an invisible part of society.
And so, in other words, you are finding out the reason why you were put in care according to the government of the day.
Yes, the version of the government's, yes. And the voice of the child is never written in those files, ever.
Leonie Sheedy, who did you say, Solicitor General will make the decision?
The Solicitor General will make the decision, but perhaps the Federal Royal Commission will make the decision. And I think it's long overdue for the South Australian government homes like Landor and McGill and the pedophile rings of public servants to be exposed at the Royal Commission. The South Australian government hasn't had the spotlight shone on them with this Federal Royal Commission. We've had the Catholic St Anne's and we've had the Salvation Army at Eden Park. It's long overdue for the South Australian government homes to be exposed for the abuses that they inflicted on South Australian state wards.
Leonie, you're also, I understand, concerned about an article in today's Advertiser explaining that there will be an introduction of continuous monitoring of criminal and child protection history. I would have thought that would be something that would be good, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be good, but I'm really concerned that they're going to be scanning state ward child protection records, the very records that we're trying to get access for 4 prisoners in South Australia. Who's going to be looking at these files? The police? Are we going to be labelled as child abusers, potential abusers, because we've been in state care?
Is that your worry that there is, and I don't know whether it's right or wrong, it's been put forward as a theory that people that have been abused are more likely to abuse. Is that the thing you're worried about? I
am worried about that. The labelling of us state children care leavers being labelled as potential abusers or abusers. We've got enough black marks against us, without adding to it.
All right. Well, we'll put that to the Minister. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Leonie Sheedy. And I understand you're about to go into Port Lincoln Prison, and I believe you think that that's an exemplary prison. Is that correct?
Well, I think they need to be commended because they have this expo day where they invite people from the community to come, and this is the 3rd year that I've been, and every year I get requests for state ward files or orphanage records, and I just love it, Speaking to 160 blokes in about an hour and a half is extremely difficult, but some of them will come at the end of it and talk to me and, tell me a bit of their story, but you get very little time to go into a lot of personal stuff. But I just want to commend the Port Lincoln Prison and Sam, who does the work of this, and Andrew. They do a fantastic job, and I just enjoy coming back every year.
Thank you very much for your time. Leonie Sheedy from Clan Care Leavers Australia.